which is a fireside chat on the topic Modernizing Data Protection. And for this, I would like to invite our panel members first. We have Mr. Srinivas KR, who is the CEO at Infoavana Technologies. Mr. Ramanujam Komanduri, who is India Head at Pure Storage. Mr. Vasu Prakash, who is the Regional Director at Veritas. And this elite panel would be moderated by Sudharsan Aravamuthan, who is Head of Systems Engineering at Pure Storage.
On all these sessions, and we heard a lot about data center efficiency, sustainability, aspects around building site resiliency engineering, with also the no event is complete without the talk about multi-cloud, AI, ML, and etc. Right now, we move on to the important aspect, which is essentially we all know, right? Data is the new oil, and organizations are out there to kind of get valuable insights from the data. But what's very important is also to kind of see how do you protect this data and what does modern data protection mean. We have very esteemed panelists. We have Vasu from Symantec, we have Ram from Pure Storage, and we have Srinivas from Infoavana. So this is going to be more like a fireside chat, getting their insights, getting their view, and also getting to know, where they come from and, what the organization does. So I'll kind of start off with, Vasu, right? Data protection and backup is, Veritas is synonymous for it, right? But essentially, what the audience would like to know is, what does Veritas do beyond backup, and especially how are you helping your 80,000 plus strong customers?
Thank you. Thanks, Sudharsan. I hope it's not too loud. So, my name is Vasu Prakash. Sudharsan, it's funny you mentioned Symantec. So, we were part of Symantec. So, we have acquired a lot of security related technologies from Symantec. I run this region, both enterprise and the government, from Veritas. So, we spin off from Symantec around 7-8 years ago. So, we are an independent company. First of all, thank you for having me. I'm very grateful to sit next to the esteemed panel, and then thanks for the UBS forms. So before I start talking about the technology and the company brand, I would like to just share a personal experience. And it was very important, and after that, the way we have done the business is significantly changed. Right. So this is around 2-3 years ago during COVID time, and it was a Saturday evening, right? And I get this frantic call from one of my account managers along with the SE. He's trying to reach out. I was outside, and then I look at my phone. It's 5-6 times ringing. And I pick up the phone, and the account manager and SE said, so this person from one of the biggest IT organizations, he's trying to reach out to us, and then he's on a call, and then he wants to bring his head of IT, and then we should get on a call. I said, okay, man, what happened? Saturday night, we could definitely have this call on Monday. He said, no, this guy, he wants to talk. So I come on the side. It's a lot of noise, and then I'm getting on a call with him. And the other side, see, one of the senior guys, he said, Vasu, I want to bring my head of IT, and then we need to get on a call. I said, okay, fine. So if it's that urgent, let's get on a call. So we get on a call, and head of IT comes saying that, Vasu, drop everything what you guys are doing. I need your best engineers, and we are under attack. And this happened 2-3 years ago, and we said, okay, fine. You have our solution, so we can just go restore it. He said, no, you don't understand. We are under attack. We've been monitored by our board, right? So I need your best engineers to come, and we are going to open up only for you guys during this time, and I want you to put your best engineers, best professional services, restore. So we said, okay, fine, Saturday night we are trying to call my PS head, who happens to be flying, and then he's getting down in Singapore. I get him on the call, and we could get some 5-6 guys from the professional services, and we were in their data centers, and it turns out they were under attack, and then we were restoring their critical applications. And one of the biggest worry at that time I had was, bloody hell, these guys are under attack, and then hope they have not touched my data. So the head of IT told me that I need your cleanest data to be restored immediately. So next thing I know is, and I said, okay, fine, I'll get it done. He said, no, I am waiting. You get whoever it is. So we are waiting 1 hour with him. And then we are getting, we immediately got, I think, 6 guys on the call. And then we are working next 72 hours to restore the data continuously without, getting off. So turns out that, critical data was restored very successfully, but still they got into a lot of mess because they thought those applications are fine and then they could restore. They got it running. So from that experience, I learned 3-4 things, and that sums up what Veritas is. One is you have to rely on the data protection strategy with the company that can give you help, that can be with you at the time it's real critical, and you have to find the technologies that is at that time. You have an organization that not only just get you on the phone, but professional services. We were almost like 10 guys working with them, restoring the data. I'm actually kind of one of some of us, we had to even represent from our company to their board. So one is that, find the right company. Number 2 is, this is my personal experience, guys. Have a good relationship with your data protection guys. I mean, it doesn't have to be Veritas, but I'm just saying, when shit hits the fan, they are the guys who are there. They were frantically calling me. They were working day and night. So, bottom line, give the PO on time. Don't make them run around. And number 3, they thought that they have their applications covered and critical applications covered. It turns out they were not, it was not sufficient, right? They had to eventually go get a lot more coverage than their the application. So this sums up, what we are trying, and then from that day onwards, completely changed how we work with the customers in terms of how we interact with them. I could do that because of the strong technology and the strong professional services that I had. So that sums up Veritas for you. Thanks.
So I think a couple of important aspects from what you kind of said is essentially, it's now the fact that it's not about, whether you would get attacked. It's about when are you going to get attacked. That's imminent. And the second thing is, how quickly are you able to bring and restore, your data back. And I think our talk is going to center quite a bit around that whole ransomware protection, cyber resiliency aspect of it. But I want to move on to, Ram. While we spoke about data protection, Pure has been a leader, in the primary storage. Even in the everyone looks at analyst report, Gartner. So you're pretty much the leader 10 years in a row in a Gartner quadrant. But I think for the audience and customers and for the team out here, would you be able to introduce what does Pure do in India? What are the kind of customers do we have, and etc.
Yep, thanks Sudharsan, and good morning everybody. So just a quick 30 seconds on what we do as a company. We are a modern day storage, hybrid cloud storage organization, and majority of what we do is built around providing a service level to organizations. That's pretty much what we do well. And the service levels, not in terms of uptimes or any of them, I think those are all given nowadays. But what we talk about is how do we ensure that your data is protected. And like what Vasu said, just to carry on from there, in the digital world, the business is pretty much 24/7. So it's not anymore about how well do you back up your data, but it's more about how well can you restore your data. How fast can you be up and running again? I say again, you would ideally not want to be down at all. How fast can you get back again, and be up and running in your business? That's what we do as an organization. In India, we've been here for about 5 years now as a company, and we have over 150 odd customers with over 300 odd systems installed, and we work very, very well with partners like Veritas and Infoavana, of course, in providing robust data management solutions to customers. So Sudharsan, that's absolute brief, I would guess.
Sure,
yeah.
Sure. Thanks. So moving on to Srini, right? I mean, you're partner to both Veritas as well as Pure Storage, and that basically encompasses, a significant portion of the data management, right? You have the primary as well as the secondary data management, and it covers aspects around data governance, it covers aspects around data protection, so a lot to do with data in terms of when the data gets ingested to the time that you're able to kind of store it for visualization and a lot of other stuff. So, could you briefly tell us by way of introduction, what's Infoavana, where do you play, and etc.
Good morning, everyone, and thanks for being here. Thanks for the panelists as well for being a part of this event. First of all, if you're talking about Infoavana, a lot of my customers, as soon as we introduce Infoavana to our customers, they ask, what do you mean by Infoavana, right? So it's a combination of both English as well as Sanskrit word, right? So info means it's well known, which is information. Avana means the Sanskrit word for Avana is protection or security, right? So Infoavana stands for information protection or information security, right? So the way we came up with this theme is that we wanted to understand what is our main objective to start this organization, to run this organization, right? So though we have got a lot of things which is coming within IT, right? Starting from your endpoint, your servers, your networking, your storages, your backup. Ultimately, what is very essential for customer is protecting their information, protecting their data, right? Information or data stands above everything else in today's world, right? Today, if you ask what Infoavana does, we are an integrator. We are a system integrator company wherein we provide comprehensive solutions around data centers, solutions or infrastructure, around cyber security and cloud computing. Within data center, we provide storage-based solutions. We work very closely with Pure, we work very closely with Veritas, where we help customers modernize their data protection strategies and provide solutions around it. And again, when it comes to security, see, all these things are interlinked with each other, right? When you're providing data protection strategy, you will also have to include security along with it, right? And some customers want it on a hybrid model where they want it both on-prem as well as in the cloud. So our job is to make sure that as an integrator, our underlying platform is our services, right? Which acts as a very strong pillar in integrating all these three things together. So in a gist, this is what Infoavana does. We have got a very strong team. We have got certain guidelines which we follow to integrate all these things. Thank you.
Thank you, Srini, for that. Moving on to Vasu, right? I mean, like the data backup is a non-negotiable, requirement for organizations today, right? And backups have existed for a long period of time, and you're a leader in that space. But now we are hearing, like how we hear aspects around multi-cloud, AIML, generative, LLM, and all of those kind of stuff. In that data space, we are hearing, I wouldn't say a buzzword, but an important aspect for the CIOs is essentially, I want to be able to modernize my data protection, right? So that modern is something that all customers are embarking. So what, according to you, is a modern data protection strategy, and especially that word modern?
Yeah. Great question. See, earlier, I literally have to, and then we work together. Srini and Veritas worked together on, and he was in Veritas as well. So earlier when we had to go to any company, mid-size or large companies, we literally had to go and request for a meeting over and over again because we were just backup vendors. Now I think we have earned the table, so we are very frequently at the CIO table. That's both good and bad. When I met one of the CIOs, they said, look, you're here because you're consuming a lot of budget, man. Data is growing. So I really like Santosh's presentation here. He said 180 zettabytes. And then that's not Facebook data. That is the real data, enterprise data, right? So, and then we need to protect it. We are in a good business. And yeah, I mean, there are competitors also, but everybody has a place, and then we are doing extremely well. That's number one. Number two, I was also called for Economic Times CISO event. I was like, first time I'm going and speaking in a CISO event. And in one of the presentations, we presented and I was sitting next to the CISO also. Everybody kind of agreed that the last line of defense is the clean data. So we need to make sure that the data is clean when, really they get into problems. So in my mind, there are 5-6 attributes to a data protection, right? I mean, it can be Veritas, it can be anything, but this is what I keep in mind. I go and tell my CIOs and CISOs what you need to do. Number one, that has to have a data protection and data compliance, data security and compliance. That means we need to have multi-level advanced data encryption, advanced security frameworks built into it, right? And it has to, kind of cater to all the compliances. That's number one, data security and compliance. Number two, backup and recovery excellence. Backup, when you do the backup, you need to be able to restore it almost spontaneously. Why do we back up? We need to be able to restore it, recover any point of time, whether it is in cloud or on-prem. That is number two. Number three, we all talk about multi-cloud and hybrid environment. A lot of people are doing multi-cloud, but a lot of customers, we were talking today, this morning also with Srini, a lot of customers are looking at, I want to be able to save a copy of the data on-prem as well, because I just don't trust sometimes the cloud. So your backup, when I say modernized backup solution, should be able to encompass the multi-cloud as well as the on-prem. So that is multi-cloud and hybrid environment. Okay, number four, scalability and performance. In this world, you need to have the right technologies in terms of the compression and deduplication, where we are optimizing the cost. When you go to the cloud, there are some technologies where do snapshots and a lot of other things, but are you really getting the performance? Because we are adding applications day in and day out. Data is growing. How do you make sure that the application, the backup performance and scalability, it should be able to automatically scale when the applications are added. So that's number four, scalability and performance. Number five, simplified management. Like we are making the complex thing heck of everything right now. We have applications in cloud, we have applications in multi-cloud, and we have on-prem hypervisors. How do we make sure that it is very simple to manage? I have the CIO dashboard, and if he sees that, I exactly know what is going on. So that's number five, simplification. Number six, obviously, proof is in the pudding. The customer success and the support. I mean, as Veritas, I know many banks, many banks have been using, and they are sleeping in peace because it is protected by Veritas. They should be able to restore. We empower the customers. Hello? We empower the customers to be able to sleep peacefully because their data is protected, right? So this number 6. I mean, these are 5-6 attributes the backup vendors or the data production vendors have to have, and all the other technologies like Gen AI, everything is included. This is what for me is the modern data protection.
Sudarshan, if I may just add, see, if you think about how data has changed in the last decade or decade and a half, right? I guess most of the data nowadays is unstructured, and somebody like the gentleman from HDFC or maybe Rangnath can possibly give the numbers on those. The type of data has changed, number one, okay, and more importantly, backups are not dormant nowadays, right? So I would have loved to see when he put up the data center slide. For all a lot of work goes on in the second or third data center on the data which is backed up. A lot of analytics are running on them nowadays. In fact, just to borrow from one of the exercises which we are doing together, Veritas and us, where we're creating a data hub, so to speak, right, where the entire data from all the application sources and so on come in and are getting ingested into this data hub, and then they are fed into a whole host of analytics which a lot of businesses are running out of from there. Whether you run an AI, whether you run any analytics for that matter, real time or non-real time, whatever, you need to have a larger and more real-time data to actually get more accurate business outcomes, right? So the data protection now, the concept of an archival is possibly passé, I guess, right? You need to have data which is available to a lot of these reporting formats or applications which organizations then use to feed to their businesses, right? So that's the concept of modern data protection. The formats of data changing and using the backed up data into ensuring outcomes for business, right? So that's what the whole concept of modern data protection is nowadays.
Sure. Thanks, Vasu and Ram. Just kind of, I would say, while they were speaking, I was just thinking, like, looks like that area of the secondary data management or the modern data protection is lit up like a Christmas tree, right? Because of the fact that, one, you have the need to protect data is non-negotiable for all businesses, but now comes in the complexity with regards to new set of workloads that have come in, which is essentially talking about aspects like multi-cloud, AI, ML, and we've not touched upon really gone depth in the technical space where you move from physical to virtual to Kubernetes. Now, Kubernetes requires a whole different game when it comes into data protection as such. But having said that, I think back to you, Ram, is the fact that the underpinnings of all of this is very simple. Is that back to what even 𝗕𝗲 was presenting, Mr. Kulkarni from there, which is essentially 180 zettabytes. Data is growing exponentially, and I liked that slide which had on one end you have new workloads like AI, ML, generative AI, and all of those that's coming in, and also the traditional workloads. There's an exponential growth. On the other end, there is the clear focus on looking at sustainability. Looking at aspects where you're reporting on sustainability. And data center typically consumes roughly about 4 to 5% of the global power consumption, and in that storage is about 20 to 25%. The question to you is, no one really now wants to discard data. So are there solutions at the same time? Speed of access, like you mentioned, Ram, is very important, and etc. Right, for the so are there solutions out there in the storage space that kind of helps solve this problem? And so I can store more, but I want to be able to store it more efficiently.
Yeah, I mean, there are I think people like us, from Pure Storage, we're working on two fundamental directions. One is, how do you reduce the space occupied by the same data? A. B. How do you ensure that your capacity increases in the same energy consumption factors, right? For us, for example, nowadays we're talking about using NAND to effectively, just to give you an example, which saying that this sort of a form factor, Sudarshan, will give you 75 terabytes. We're way far ahead than anybody right now. We're talking about 300 terabytes in this form factor in the next 18 to 24 months.
That's a single drive. Right?
Single. And an array would consume less power than what we use in a microwave at home. I mean, just to give you all some numbers, the microwave at your house uses 2 kilowatts of power. We use less than that. So, you know, it's unimaginable. You know, I mean, we were with a customer a couple of weeks ago, and he was using 9 kilowatts, and we were talking about 1.7 kilowatts. He just didn't believe us that on what we're doing. So when you work on these two factors, right, you reduce the space used by the existing data, and at the same time increase the capacity in the same space available to you at the same power, right? So we are exponentially increasing the capacity to store data, right? And more importantly, I must tell you, one of the challenges we faced recently from a very large mutual fund house was, how do you restore 800 terabytes of data in less than 6 hours? The question was not, can you back it up? The question was, can you restore 800 terabytes in 6 hours? Right? So that's something which you have to demonstrate and show that you can do.
So just to summarize on what you said, I mean, you're basically saying that, you know, we're able to solve on both sides, which is essentially provide performance, you know, reduce latencies, increase capacities with massive densities by able to pack multi-petabytes in less than half a rack. So basically you're collapsing data centers from a storage standpoint. So therefore you don't need to kind of be worried about, you know, having that data, you know, which is getting created, and you don't need to discard because you never know when you're going to find valuable information. But all of that is done very sustainably, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Now moving on to you, Srini, I mean, you know, we did address that whole data management space, and you know, how do you play a role? But I'm sure since you deal as being a trusted advisor to customers across, and you see a breadth of technologies, right? What do you think, as per you, should be a modern data protection strategy within a customer's environment?
See, if you're looking at data backup, right? Unlike 5-6 years back, data backup used to just be a tick mark activity when it comes to IT infrastructure management, right? We were seeing less than 0.5 to 1% of the IT budget used to be spent only on data backup. But today things are changing, things are evolving. People, they do not want to get into data protection, but they want to get into modernized data protection. People are investing close to 5 to 7% of their IT management budget for modernizing data protection. So today, modernizing data protection has become more essential, right? Because the IT landscape is changing, right? Securities are getting added to it. Now, what are these things that we will have to do, or what are the guidelines that needs to be followed for modernizing data protection is becoming a huge task today. Today, if you're looking at Infoavana, what we do, we have set certain guidelines, right? So first we go ahead and look at we do a comprehensive assessment of entire IT infrastructure. What is their data protection landscape? What is their strategy? Then we go ahead and we set a very clear objective with customer on understanding what type of data types that he has got and what is his data protection strategy moving forward. So we will get into a joint collaborative mechanism to position our strategy to them. Post that, we will identify who are the best of the breeds in the industry, right? Like Pure and Veritas, and we tend to go ahead and position a joint solution to customer. Once we do this, we also make sure that we automate things for customer. We also make sure that securities are taken place. In case if air gap needs to be brought into picture, we get air gap. We also enable the team to make sure that the operations are taken care in full-fledged. We also enable in such a way that today if you're talking about any attack that happens, one of the major reasons for the attacks to happen is because of improper patch updates, right? No timely updates for this security patch updates that are happening. So what we do, we enable the team to make sure that these things, the basic things are taken care, and we provide a detailed documentation on the processes that we have followed, on the actionables that we have done, and what are the plans that needs to get implemented in next 3 to 5 years, right? And all these things put together is what we call it as modernized data protection.
Sure. So, I mean, what I understand from what you just said is the fact that modern data protection is a need of the hour, and how Infoavana is going to help is you're going to carry out a detailed assessment from the as is to be state, look at the vulnerabilities and all of that, create a roadmap, work with best of the breed technology providers out there and help the customer essentially be more secure, be more resilient. At the same time, ensure that they are on a roadmap to kind of achieve the objectives that they need to. And I kind of like that whole aspect of, not the SLA, SLO, but SLI that comes into the picture. That was a good, insight. My last round of questions, right? I mean, while we spoke about modernized data protection, while we spoke about, what Veritas does and etc., and we did touch a lot upon, I mean, introduction was on ransomware, right? How would you kind of rate customers right now? Do you think that most of the customers that you talk to are ransomware resilient? I mean, because when you talk about ransomware, everyone is talking about protecting the edge locations, probably having, like the multi-cloud strategy. But backup, like you said, is the last line of defense. So as per you, what is the readiness of our customers here? And what do you think should be the effective ransomware strategy in a summary?
Yeah, it's a good question. So everybody talks about ransomware resiliency, right? So we also do have a solution, but the way I think we should look at it, because whenever we go to the customers, we are the last line of defense, and they say, as long as recently also I took one of the customers to our Pune engineering center. We have 2,000 engineers sitting in Pune. So we take our customers there, and then they don't get to hear the sales bullshit that I talk, but they really talk to the customer, engineering team. See, one of the VPs came and said, "Look, dude, I need the clean data. Can you promise me the clean data?" And he was like looking at it. If anybody could promise that, I mean, it's impossible. But interestingly, he was talking about a strategy. How do you make sure that the data is as clean it can get to as possible, right? One of the challenges of ransomware is, you have the 3-4 levels, and then basically they will come and sit and you won't even know whether it's looking at it. And I know there are a lot of security companies that cover a lot of things, but when it comes to the backup data, we need to have very specific strategy in terms of the ransomware resiliency. So I was drawing a picture, right? You imagine in a Mysore, I don't know, anybody have seen 𝗕𝗱𝗏𝗃 fort or Mysore Palace fort. You take that fort, and then he was showing, draw 7 to 8 forts, right? One after the other. So he said, you heard, what is that chocolate ice cream? Death by chocolate, right? So this is like, death by defense kind of thing, right? He said, we need to make sure that this forts, when the ransomware comes, by the time they get to the 3rd or 4th fort, we know somebody's already come there. We know somebody's kind of looking at the data. So that is what we need to do. We need to build that fort 7 to 8 layers. That could be, IDS, IPS protection. It could be multi-factor authentication, behavioral analysis, looking at anomalies, like, right before you back up. Look at the anomalies. Look at the application, monitor the application. If there are anything that is changing, catch up there. Look at the anomalies, multi-factor authentication, encryption, right? Obviously, CRS, cyber resiliency is not complete without the worm capabilities. What's the new word for that? Immutability. Immutability and indelibility. These are the two words. Immutable means you can't touch the data. Indelible means even if you change the policies, I can't touch the data. And you go change, protect your clock as well. One of the engineers was explaining, well, you put the policy and then they go change the NTP clock, they can get to the data. So they were explaining this multi-level, 7 to 8 levels of walls you build across, not the enterprise. I'm talking about our data protected environment. So that is what is called the cyber resiliency, and that is what we do and have been protecting the data protection solutions. Yeah.
Sure. Thanks, Vasu, for that. So you kind of laid that 7 aspects earlier, and then now you're saying that obviously having a multi-layer defense, not only from an overall IT standpoint, but within the data protection is also very important. That's good. I think it's only a matter of time, in my view, that we have a regulation that comes in, because I know for a fact that, if you look at Hong Kong monetary authorities basically went out to all the banks and said, look, you need to have these 7 parameters, like, what Vasu was talking about. It should be heterogeneous support. It should be, speed of recovery is important. It should be immutable in nature, air gap, all of those. And they kind of put it as a standard and said all banks need to follow that. I guess it's only, and now we have the data protection law and etc. coming in. I think it's only a matter of time that the regulators, which I'm sure they're already doing, but it becomes a norm that, hey, data protection is important. Now you need to kind of have, these attributes very important. Now moving on to you, Ram, I mean, you touched upon the subscription aspect of it, saying that, we are more focused around the SLA and all of those that is there. Obviously, data gets stored in the primary storage as the first line. Is there any technologies that are available and more with regards to service level agreements that you give to your customers with regards to ransomware protection and all of those?
Yeah, in fact, I think I was talking to a colleague a little while ago. I was saying that the concept of consuming storage is not about buying storage anymore. It's about subscribing to a service level. Okay, and the service level is not 6 nines availability and all those anymore. Those are given. I think the service levels now, especially somebody like us, what we are saying is that how do you ensure that there is no downtime? Can you sign up? We sign up SLA saying no downtime. Can you sign up an SLA saying no migration ever? We sign up an SLA saying there's no migration. We're possibly the only guys who are willing to sign saying we're signing an SLA for ransomware protection. Wow. I mean, just to borrow from what Vasu said, we're willing to sign up with customers saying we protect your data, right? And this is something which you're going to sign on as a guarantee. So the subscriptions now have changed, right? It's not about how you pay. It's about how you get a particular level of service from the technology below. That's what I think we're moving as partners to deliver to our customers now, Sudharsan.
That's a very interesting point that you brought up, Ram. So if I were kind of, summarize what you said that, while the industry is moved like a cloud-like operating model on the hyperscaler where you crash or migrate the data that is there on the storage. So vendors like Pure are taking care of that. You said zero downtime, so there's no downtime. So there's a downtime guarantee that is provided to customers. Third, there is a ransomware SLA that you're signing up for, which means that you're saying if you get attacked by ransomware on your primary storage, you're able to recover and ship out a clean array to kind of recover the data. Back to that important conversation today I'm hearing is that clean data, right? So you're essentially providing that area. And the last one is obviously on the sustainability, where you're saying that you're paying for the power, cooling, and rack space consumption for customers having it within the data center. Those are very interesting. I mean, both of you touched upon. My last question for the day to you, Srini. I mean, this I would want to kind of reflect on the background that you have, right? Like Vasu said, you worked with Veritas. The good I bought the Symantec because everyone understood the genealogy of Symantec to
security.
Yes. So you worked with Veritas. I know that you worked with CrowdStrike as well. The leaders in the cybersecurity space, and now you're leading Infoavana. So while we spoke about the data management, is there anything that Infoavana brings from a holistic standpoint, apart from data protection, to your customers?
See, now in today's world, security is non-negotiable, right? And it cannot be negotiated. If any customer says that I'm 100% protected and I don't need security, then it's not that anybody of us can agree here, right? If not today, tomorrow he would be attacked. So what is very important is what are the guidelines that we are setting when it comes to security, when it comes to regulation, and when it comes to modernized data protection, right? So today when you're talking about ransomware, what reflects me is top 3 things. One is prevention, one is detection, third thing is response or recovery, right? So when you're talking about prevention, there are a lot many vendors today in the market who would be able to provide security products when it comes to prevention. In spite of that, we are still seeing attacks happening, ransomware attacks happening, right? One of the major reasons is not having proper enablement on the teams or the employees who's managing that entire infra. That could be one of the reasons. Second thing is the patch updates that we were discussing some time back. In spite of having these things, we also need to have detection capabilities, right? When you're talking about detection capability, we need to have monitoring capabilities, tools which can give some alerts on this, right? We will have to get into maybe some kind of vulnerability assessment test, compromise assessment test, red teaming, blue teaming, tabletop exercises, right? These are some of the exercises. It has to be ongoing, right? This cannot be a one-time activity, right? Along with our data protection, security has to be a major player in today's world. There is no compromise about this. Third thing is, in spite of all this, incidences still occur, right? When these incidences occur, how do we plan to, when these attacks happen, how do we plan our incidences is what is very important, right? Whether our communication portal open, whom should we reach out to, right? And have we got proper data protection strategies in place? How do we recover? See, recovery is also very, very important. Today, most of us are only talking about backups, right? I've seen organizations where they've been backing up, but after 15 years, if they want to restore, the new vendors are finding it very difficult to restore. But organizations like Veritas, today we have got huge case studies within ourselves where we can show it to customers on when it comes to recoverability is concerned, right? And today people are not only talking about recovery, right? Because when I've seen one incident where attack had happened and customers spent almost 72 hours for recovering the data, right? Then later, with today's modernized workloads, with modernized storage companies like we are coming into, what really matters is, it's not only about backup, but how fast we would be able to recover. What are the guidelines set around it? What are the security measures around those things, right? So these are some of the important aspects I feel that needs to be considered. Thanks, Sudharsan.
Yeah, so to conclude, you're saying, the defense depth strategy is widespread, while we are focused on the data side of it. Infoavana can help address right from the, creation to assessment to delivering and, all of those. And just not on the data management space, but across, like you said, vulnerability assessment testing and all of those, penetration testing, all of those that can be done is what you can contribute to. Okay. I think with that, I hope, this provided great insights into what the whole modern data protection with regards to sustainability, with regards to new SLAs that are out there in the market. Having said that, I think we can open it up for one or two questions from the audience if there are any questions. Otherwise we can conclude. If there are any questions, we will take it up. Otherwise, thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Okay, I guess we don't have any questions, but thank you so much. Thank you so much to all